It is the Matt Mosley Show and Rogue Media Network. More and more folks coming over. Great to have you today. And lots to, we had a lot happening before the show yesterday. We've had more happen today. And then legendary Oklahoma columnist, used to be with the Oklahoma, now with the Tulsa World. Barry Trammell will be joining us to talk about a couple different things, including the firing of Mike Gundy, and then the injury to John Mateer, which has shaken up the Heisman race. He was the Heisman hopeful. You wonder kind of when exactly this happened during the game, but he'll have to have surgery on his right hand. Scotty Swingler with me as always, and Scotty he was away on assignment yesterday. Zach Burke filling in for him, but great to have Scotty back today. Scotty, you missed out on all the interesting times yesterday with Gundy getting fired. And I guess we knew, Scotty, it was going to happen, and it is going in the wrong direction, and it was going in the wrong direction last season, but you hate it. I mean, as much as Baylor people couldn't stand Gary Patterson, I mean, the truth of the matter is, like somebody that's been that great for that long of a period of time, you just kind of hate to see it end like it did for Gundy. And in time, they'll celebrate him, and he'll be if he's not already in the Oklahoma State Hall of Fame. He was a quarterback there, so maybe he's already in there. And quite honestly, I think Patterson already had a statue while he was there. Same thing for Bob Stoops. I don't think we have a Gundy statue, but someday the visor, I think that should be the case. But
mullet. Yeah. Make sure there's a mullet on that statue.
I think the mullet became synonymous with Coach Gundy. But man, I don't know. I just kind of feel sad. I mean, who knows? I think that could, obviously it's been a good program. The Big 12 in some ways remains kind of wide open. Like, I'm just talking about the future of the Big 12. So there's two different things. First of all, Scotty, I think you and I need to have a discussion on, like, is this a good job? Like, is it, I mean, certainly from where some people are in the group of five, I should say, coaches, yes, it would be a step up. Like, is it a good job in relation to like UCLA and Virginia Tech? Like, is it better than both of those jobs? I think that's the discussion to be had. But first, Scotty, just, on Gundy, his legacy, and I think overall pretty sad day for the Big 12. That he couldn't get it turned around, and it bottomed out. And so along the way, we're going to lose people, right? Like the NIL, and we lose them in basketball. We just lost, and I don't know why Pearl, he may got into politics. He could have kept coaching. It's not like the NIL or anything bothered him. He was great at that stuff. But with some coaches, Dabo being one of those right now, it just wasn't a good fit. And while I guess Gundy had the bounce back in 2023, for the most part, man, I would say, much like with Dave Aranda, NIL era, portal era, really uneven for him. Really only had like one kind of decent bounce back, and the rest of it had been really bad. And so Gundy's career comes to an end. And I know, Scotty, you had said maybe Baylor should immediately hire him. I think he could help a staff in a lot of ways. I think it's hard for a Power 4 team to justify to its fan base going to fire someone or hire someone that had bottomed out this badly. Because this is worse than even what had happened at TCU.
Yeah, but you just said it, Matt. Gundy's issues at Oklahoma State are entirely NIL transfer portal related. It's roster management related. The dude is still one of the top 5 offensive minds in football for my money. I mean, you talk about the quarterbacks, the receivers, the running backs. he is put in the NFL every single season. Ollie Gordon probably about to become the starter for the Miami Dolphins, just the most recent example. Not to mention one of the greatest Dallas Cowboys of all time, Des Bryant. Gundy was consistently putting offensive talent in the NFL, and it's because the dude knows how to scheme up and coach an offense. We had David Pollack this morning on Pete Souza's show, and he said, I think Gundy would really, maybe if he can, Pollack didn't say this, Scotty's saying this. It's an ego thing, right? But what Pollack said is if he can take the role of a coordinator, kind of be like Chip Kelly for the next couple years, just go coach ball, call the offense, coach up a quarterback room. Like, there are not three guys in America better at those things than Mike Gundy.
Wait a second, just so we're clear. Pollack didn't say this. This is what you're saying.
No, Pollack. I made a sidebar about an ego thing. That was Scotty's words. I said,
okay.
I don't know what Gundy's head is at. Does he think he needs to be the head coach? I don't know. But what Pollack said that I think Scotty thinks, if Gundy can put his ego aside and say, yeah, you know what? I can go coach under someone else. There are not three dudes in America I'd rather have coaching my quarterback room or calling my offense. Me.
Yeah.
I think he is still, from a football perspective, one of the very best at that. And frankly, Matt, as we've talked about Dave Aranda at Baylor, I wonder if that's not where he's at. If he's not the head coach for the next 2 or 3 seasons, would it revive him to just take a step out of the roster management, the CEO stuff, the recruiting stuff, just go call a defense?
Yeah.
Right. I think Gundy, man, I
think you're like a lot of Baylor fans. You're trying to speak the Aranda thing into existence. You're like, hey, this would be a good idea for Dave. Dave, I think you'd enjoy this. Why don't you take a little time off from the whole head coaching thing?
Well, listen, my point is Gundy today is valuable. He could walk into any, I don't care how good your program is, any program in college football right now and make your offense better. He can. And so at a minimum, if you're a competitive program right now, you're calling his agent and saying, would he come be a consultant, kind of like Gary Patterson was for Baylor?
Yeah.
Would he come be an analyst? Will he come spend a week at practice and evaluate our quarterback room and how we can improve? I mean, that he could make a ton of money for the next 3 months just doing that, let alone there are some schools, a Virginia Tech would be insane not to see if he's interested in being the head coach for the rest of the season right now. Just to see.
Yeah, well, he's not. Yeah, that won't happen. Like the in-season immediate. The only person I've ever seen do something like that, I feel like Holgorsen might have jumped in the water pretty quickly, maybe even to try to help TCU out. I don't know what Holgersen's doing. Holgorsen is he's at Nebraska now. I think he's Rule's offensive coordinator now that I think about it. Thank you, Central National Bank. Thank you for your unbelievable loyalty and just the greatness that you bring and all the fun that you do. I hear people brag on, we've been a boring bank since 1865. Central National Bank's the opposite. They, you see their commercials, you see the fun that they have. And that's one of the reasons people seem to flock to them, because they try new things. They're exciting. They are open later than most banks. Their people are on call until like 10 o'clock at night. Honestly, in most places in Central Texas, that just didn't happen. And they're, of course, in Austin and Temple, which we can count all that as. When we get up to Austin, I can start calling it the hill country. I don't really think of that as Central Texas, but some people do. And Central National Bank is just in all those places. But really, with the 2 locations in Waco, they are a huge Waco bank. And then the people that own that bank are just unbelievable. So very appreciative of that. Now, Scotty, just your point was well taken on the ego thing, because I think much like it was easier for Patterson to get his arms around being a consultant, I think he did have opportunities to be a coordinator. It's very hard for successful longtime head coaches. It happens sometimes in the NFL, I guess, that some people try to jump right back in. But Eberflus is a bad example because he was horrible as a head coach in Chicago, so it wasn't really hard for him to jump back in and try to rehab his image. Quinn was okay with the Falcons, rehabs his image, rehabs everything, has a good run with the Cowboys. He becomes a head coach again. You know, I guess actually when I think about Gundy, he's about Quinn's age, but I think the ego probably is such that he would be more open to being a some kind of consultant next season rather than being a head coach or excuse me, a coordinator. Now, from a head coaching standpoint, when you're 58 and you still feel juiced up and you lift a lot of weights and you look like Gundy does, yeah, I think he would listen. I think he would listen to one of these guys, and I think it would take somebody who really understands what you were just saying, Scotty, like that. The reason he bottomed out were all these other reasons. And if you gave him this and gave him that, I just think you'd have to come to the understanding is he wired? Like, I don't think Dabo's wired. I think Dabo's an unbelievable football coach. And what he's done at Clemson is unreal. Okay. And you talk about a guy who deserves a statue, but I don't think he can truly get his arms around NIL transfer. And I'm not convinced as a head coach, Gundy can do it either. Now, if Gundy came to Baylor as some kind of coordinator or a consultant or something like that, absolutely. It'd be fine. You wouldn't worry about, he doesn't really get NIL. You wouldn't. I am with you on that, Scotty. I think he's got the mind, the juice, there's a lot that he could bring to a staff. In fact, to a young coach, Spavital's still pretty young. Don't forget that Spavital's still I don't even think he's turned 40 yet. Spavital might either late 40s or late 30s or just turned 40. Could absolutely use somebody like Gundy. You don't think that helped Sark having Patterson that one year? Wherever Patterson went after that. I mean, the only reason Patterson didn't work out at Baylor is just because I think both of them realized while it was somewhat helpful, it was also somewhat redundant to have two huge defensive minds in the same room. And what I mean by that is I think Gary has such a huge personality. Obviously, Dave Aranda doesn't, that it became confusing for the players. I think some of those defensive players probably started being drawn to what Gary was saying. And I'm not certain Gary is able to say, well, okay, Aranda has these different ideas. I'm going to try to teach and help these coaches with Aranda's ideas. No, Gary has his own ideas. And so for whatever reason, those two things weren't sort of melding together, and they had to move him on out, or he moved himself out. However that happened. Now we are usually at 1:30. Let me look at my trusty clock here. All right, usually at about 1:30. That's when we're doing Campus Confidential today, because we had the opportunity to have a big name. This guy is royalty in Oklahoma. It is the great Barry Trammell, and Barry is longtime columnist, TV. He does it all, but mainly known for his writing and his columns and for breaking some pretty huge news over the years. And so he's not only all over this Gundy thing, but Scotty, the other big news from yesterday coming out of Oklahoma. I mean, the state of Oklahoma basically had the whole country, even though, Scotty, we had the SEC schedules coming out yesterday evening. We already knew the three that they were protecting in their new 9-game conference schedule, but we got the rest of the schedules through 2029, who all the teams were playing. That came out at about 6 or 7 last night. And so in that part of the country, that's huge news. But the bigger news yesterday, Scotty, was the news that John Mateer, the Oklahoma quarterback who was way up there, in fact, leading the Heisman race, had a broken bone in his hand and had to he's going to have surgery. And he's talking to the folks, the hand specialist. There's a big time hand surgeon that I think is going to do the surgery, maybe out in California. But Scotty, they're not giving a timetable. I have a really hard time thinking you can have a hand surgery on your throwing hand and come rolling back in here in 4 or 5 weeks or whatever. To me, again, this is not OU hasn't said this. This is Dr. Mosley. To me, his season's over. And what a horrible shame that is. I mean, he had come in there. He had given that fan base a lot more hope, a lot more excitement. He had fueled the whole Venables thing. They're 4-0. Do they cheat and do they run plays that are should not be allowed by NCAA rules? Yes. All right. Now the officials could have caught that, right? But they did have to cheat to score one of those touchdowns against Auburn by doing the old hidden receiver trick. You can't hide a guy over by the sideline. This is like old 1950s stuff that they did. It's illegal. They did it. They got away with it. It was not enforced, and we'll see what the SEC does. In fact, Scotty, let's both be looking at that to see if the SEC like suspends those those officials or anything like that, because there have been suspensions. One SEC official got suspended this year. Big 12 sat down a crew for a mistake it made, like on a free kick. On just a kickoff that they screwed up. So we'll watch and see if the SEC punishes. Everybody loves punishment. What are they going to do? Are they going to suspend them forever? Are they done? What are they going to do? That's a big one, Scotty, is this Mateer, because did you see Scotty Swingler, who has vaulted to the top of the Heisman race? Did you see a certain quarterback who you and I are going to have to dig in? We're going to have to watch a little film of him, because let's not act. We can kind of act like we knew about him last year. He transfers in. Are you aware?
I bet. Don't tell me. Don't tell me.
Vegas now favors in the Heisman race.
I have not looked. My suspicion would be Carson Beck.
You would be wrong. The Mendoza line. Fernando Mendoza.
Let's go!
From Indiana.
Hoosiers!
Is now your odds-on Heisman favorite in light of what's happened to John Mateer.
Yes!
And Fernando Mendoza is now plus 650, I believe. Carson Beck is next. Okay, so you're not far off. But Fernando, the man, I guess if you light up Brett Bielema. Now, somebody last week was talking about the fraudulence. Well, really, of both those programs, but we may have to back off of Indiana a little bit.
Listen, Mosley, I've been on the Indiana train since last season. I said this summer they will make the playoff again, and I could pull the clip. If I knew this was going to come up today.
Go find it. Yes.
I specifically told Pete in August, this quarterback they've got is good. So I did not know he would be the Heisman favorite in September. That is a surprise to me, but I'm not surprised they're successful. I did pick them to make the playoff again. Baylor should call Coach Kurt Cignetti and have a blank check.
Stop trying to hire. It's not. There is no opening. There is
blank
no
check.
Opening.
There's an opening in my mind.
Your mind right now, it needs to be monitored very closely. Okay, and I am the man to do that. I'm the man. I am the man to kind of get you through these times when every head coach looks attractive to you. I feel like even Bielema, after getting that 63-10 whooping from Kirk Cignetti. Kirk Cignetti is good. He's provided rare hope to the state of Indiana in terms of, or to the school. Indiana's had hope for a long time with Notre Dame being in that state. But the Indiana Hoosiers have always been a basketball school. Well, now they've been horrible at basketball for some time now. Who did they hire? Did Indiana go hire the West Virginia coach or something? Is that right? Surely not. Did they? Who did Indiana hire as their basketball coach? What a joke. I mean, the guy's a nice guy, but did they literally go hire? Who hired DeVries? Surely it wasn't Indiana. Who did they hire, Scotty? Was it Darian? Who hired Darian DeVries? Somebody hired the West Virginia basketball coach after one season in the Big 12, he went rolling somewhere else. I do not understand why they can't get this right. It just seems crazy to me. All right. I'll tell you what we're going to do, Scotty. Let's get ready. Let's get ready for the man. He is the famous columnist out of Oklahoma. Barry Trammell will be joining us online. All right. We're gonna see him, and you'll get to see the great hair that Barry Trammell has. He'll show it off to us. But Scotty, break in if I forget to ask him about, because he's got lots of thoughts on Mateer as well. But I could see myself getting so into Gundy that I do want you at any point in time, Scotty, to jump in on this, because we do need to get his takes on John Mateer, likely out for the season. Barry Trammell, the longtime columnist from Oklahoma, joins us next.